Hello, and welcome back to Where Our Minds Take Us. This is my first episode after a year hiatus, after only making a few episodes. I wasn't really planning on that, just a lot of life things came up that had me predisposed. So, for those of you who do or don't know, most of you probably know, because most of you that are listening to this probably know me, because most listeners are most likely seeing this on Facebook, I would imagine. But we, my wife and I, yeah, wife, we we got married, and then we also had a baby who was 2 months early. So he was born August 19th. His original due date was November. I think it was the second. It was early November. Anyways, yeah, we had a little bit of a surprise there. So, a little background there. It right prior to him coming early, I had a bad accident where I cut 8-inch laceration. I don't even know if you'd call it laceration. It was a deep knife wound to my left arm, uh, going from the top to bottom on my forearm. Excuse me. And the way I did that was I was at my mother and father-in-law's with my wife, and we were sitting around in a circle, and I had a knife that had a button in it. It would swing open. It was a gift from my father-in-law, and it was in my pocket that day. And I was wearing jeans, mind you, so that's even crazier. And it actually came open. I had keys in my pocket as well, so I think what happened was the keys pressed on the button and the knife came open, and the knife was incredibly sharp. I can't stress that enough. A lot of people are like, how do you do that? Like, it seems like it would take force to cut yourself like that. Well, the reality is it didn't take much force at all. It was incredibly easy. The knife was that sharp. Um, it had cut through my jeans and was poking out of my pants at 30 to 45-degree angle. And I don't recall what was exactly happening, but my wife asked me to grab something, and I reached across my body. And when I did that, I just ran the length of my forearm along that knife, and it went just right, pretty much to the bone. I was like, holy shit. I brought my arm up, looked at it, and then there it was, gaping wound. And I could see the bone and everything, and it just, I mean, it looked like steak. It looked like just big pieces of meat that came apart. So I grabbed my arm. I was like, "Holy shit! Someone call 911 immediately." There's a little bit of panic there, confusion as to what to do. So I was holding my arm the whole time, and I pretty much ran outside immediately. And we had decided that it may be faster to drive to the hospital rather than wait for an ambulance, which was a bad decision looking back. But so I hopped in the car with my mother-in-law, and we drove around the corner and there was a Ross there. She said she pulled over at the Ross because she looked at me and I was very pale, and she knew that we wouldn't be able to get there in time without the ambulance. So she pulled over. She called 911. I jumped out of the van. I don't really know why. I guess to wait for the ambulance outside so I could wave them down. And she popped the back of her car trunk, and back there were some diapers for the baby that was coming soon. So I grabbed one of those, or I think she handed me one. She handed me one of those, and I put it on my arm to kind of maintain pressure. And then there was actually some guy in a car nearby parked, and he was kind of watching, like curious about what was going on. And I waved him over. I was like, "Come here, come here, come here." And he came over. I gave him my belt and was like, "Tie this around my upper arm as tightly as you can." So he put it around my upper arm. I just held my arm up in the air, applying that pressure with the diaper with my right hand, and him just yanking on that belt on my left arm to as like a makeshift tourniquet. Eventually, the sheriff came. He showed up. He seemed a little suspicious. I don't know. But anyways, he showed up, put an actual tourniquet on me. He was like, "Oh, this is gonna hurt. This is gonna hurt." I was like, "I don't give a shit, man. Just put the tourniquet on. I don't want to bleed out." At this point, there was blood everywhere. There's some pictures of me out there. Blood all over the ground, blood all over my shirt, blood all over my pants. Anyways, the medics showed up, put a tourniquet on me, got me in the back of the ambulance. We head to the hospital. Uh, I think it was a 1 or 2 hour surgery. They had to sew some veins back together. Luckily, I missed any major arteries. At least I think so. I never actually looked at the paperwork afterwards, but um, sewed up some veins, sewed up my arm. I woke up. Holy shit! They told me I lost. It was like a liter, I think, of blood, which is a lot, but it's not near death. I don't think. Anyways, shortly after that, 2 3 days, my wife was complaining about pains, kind of cramping. I know those of you who've had babies or know people with babies and know about it are like, "Ooh, pregnant cramping, that's not good." We were getting pretty close. Like I said, we're a couple months away from the due date, so I think they call them Braxton Hicks, though. As you get closer, you start getting those. I didn't think too much of it. We went to the store. Kayla made dinner that night, and then she was like, "The pain is too much." I was like, "All right, let's go to the hospital then." So we went to the hospital. Mind you, my arm is messed up. It's all wrapped up with big stitches in it. So we drove to the hospital. We get there, and she was like, I think 6 centimeters dilated already. And they're like, "Holy cow, the baby's coming." So we spent that night. Well, that's an understatement. We, I'm making it sound like it was no big deal, but at the time I was like, "What? What do we do? Holy cow! This is bad?" Instantly, I was worried. Like, is the baby gonna? Are we gonna lose the baby because it's so early? Is my wife gonna be all right? Because I don't really know what's going on. So they gave her some steroids to kind of delay the birth, and then we spent the night there. She got on the whatever the numbing agent is they put in your back. I can't think of the name of it at the moment. So we stayed the night there. Pretty sleepless night. Next morning, they're like, "Okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna have you induce labor." So they induced labor, and we went into the delivery room, and things. I mean, it was a blur. It was confusing. It was scary. I was terrified, really. But not like visibly terrified, probably, but it just like I didn't know what to do. I had no idea what to do. So we're there. She's on the operating table. They did actually put her on an operating table, not just a bed like I think they normally do. And they had me sit next to her, and I was holding her hand, telling her it was going to be okay. So she went a few rounds of trying to push. You know, she seemed to be doing okay. She said she was all right, and the baby wasn't coming out. All of a sudden, they're like, "Okay, we're doing an emergency C-section." So I was like, "Holy cow!" And then I was really scared. I was like, "Holy shit! Am I gonna lose my wife today, or my baby? Why is this happening? I don't know." So they they put up a curtain halfway up her, and I was up by her head, and I couldn't see the lower half where they were performing the C-section. And they're giving her more numbing agents, asking her if she feels it. So far, so good. But she keeps saying she can feel it. She can feel it. They start cutting. She said she could feel it, and if you ask her now, she'll say she could feel everything. I believe her. My perspective was she was like out of her mind on drugs, but so I don't think she could communicate well what she was feeling or how things were going. But once the anesthesiologist realized what was happening, they quickly got more medication in her, and then they actually ushered me out of the room into an adjoining room that connected the operating room to the NICU. So now I'm sitting in there going, oh, I don't know what's happening. I'm scared. I don't even know. I'm in shock. I'm in shock at this point. That's what it is. I'm not. I don't even know what to think. A couple minutes go by. They grab me, bring me into the adjoining room, the NICU, and there's a baby in an incubator, and there's a bunch of doctors all around. And honestly, the first thing I thought was what. Like I didn't know what was happening. It didn't register in my brain. I think partly because I was in shock that, oh, that's my baby in the incubator there. So I'm kind of looking at this scene of all these doctors rushing and bustling around this baby in this, glass box, working away, and I'm just in my mind thinking, who is this? What is this? And they're like, oh, this. I don't remember their exact words, but pretty much they told me this is your son, and I was like, that's my son. And pretty much once it set in what I was looking at, I couldn't stop crying. I probably cried for 5 to 10 minutes, and I actually cried to the point where I was lightheaded, and I said that to the primary physician, NICU doctor. I don't exactly know the titles, and he was like, "Oh man, we can't have you fainting. Here, lay down. Here's a pillow." So here I am laying on the floor of the NICU with a pillow under my head, while these doctors are walking in and out, doctors and nurses walking in and out, doing all kinds of stuff. And then I was kind of a standing joke for a short time in the NICU after that about me feeling sleepy. Excuse me. Anyways, once I was able to recollect myself, I was happy. And then I started to worry about my wife. I hadn't heard anything about her. I didn't know she's okay, what was going on. So they grabbed me, brought me out of there, into a room down a hallway. And Michaela was in there, my wife, and she was pretty much out of it. I think she was asleep when I first got there, but she did wake up a short time later, and I mean, she was on so many drugs at that point that she was, for most of the rest of that day, she was pretty, like, non-lucid. Um, I spent most of the time by her side, not because you know, I, there's kind of a little bit of a dilemma there. Do you stick by your baby in the incubator, or do you stick by your wife who just had that traumatic surgery? I split my time up a little bit, but I probably spent more time with Michaela. I think my thinking there was mainly, the doctors and nurses have the baby handled. I couldn't hold them at that point. They have it handled. There's not a whole lot I can do there except for getting away. And Michaela right now is, just went through a very traumatic surgery, and she's kind of in and out of it, and she needs me there to help, kind of stabilize and comfort her when she does start becoming aware of what's going on. Um, I think we did eventually get to hold the baby either later that day or the next day. I cannot remember. I think Michaela was still so hopped up that she doesn't actually remember it. Or we didn't hold the baby, I don't think. I think they actually rolled the incubator in there. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not remembering. A lot of it was kind of a blur. It was crazy. It was crazy. So we spent 2 months there. Not necessarily there the whole time, but the baby was, and we were in and out more and less at certain times. Michaela spent probably 99% of her time in the NICU. There were moments where she would come home to get some rest because she would be so exhausted. And, I was working through a majority of this at a new job, too. That's another thing. I started a new job right before I cut myself and right before the baby. Um, so I was kind of in and out of the NICU work, and there were days where I would, go home to sleep at night because I just needed rest to be able to function at work. And part of it was at that time I was so new at work. I didn't have the family emergency leave or FMLA or whatever it's called, and I didn't have any leave saved up. I didn't have any sick days saved up. I had nothing. Um, the people at my work were pretty kind. Our IT director told me, don't feel you have to be 100%. Take whatever days you want to be out. The only issue is they couldn't pay me because of me being in a probationary status, which sucked. And I did take, I think, the first week off and then another week or something like that. I took a couple weeks off at some point to be there in the NICU every day as much as I could. Um, but yeah, it was a long, hard journey. The 2 months in the NICU was just it was stressful, emotional, stressful. Um, you never knew what was going to happen the next day. There were days, like I said, where I'd go home and go to sleep, and it was just a new animal each and every day. You didn't know what the next was going to bring. There were days where he was the baby, Jacob, was doing great, and it looked like everything was just awesome, and things were going to get better, and maybe we would get out of there sooner rather than later, and everything was perfect. You go to sleep, wake up the next day. Nope, he had breathing spells, which, for those of you who don't know, the babies, these premature babies, they'll actually like stop breathing, or they will their heart rate will slow down. I mean, it's pretty scary. I mean, they have all kinds of equipment hooked up to them for these reasons. They have a breathing mask, they have IV, they have them in this incubator box that's heated. The first month they stay in darkness pretty much perpetually because the light is just too traumatizing, I guess. Anyways, that was that. We got out of there. Let's see. It was near the end of October, I think. So it was pretty near to his actual due date. Um, it it was a blur. It felt like the longest 2 months of my life, while at the same time going by so fast. I don't know. It was traumatic. And mind you, all this was going on during the COVID stuff, the elections. So there were, you know, every time I'd open my phone, it was COVID this, COVID that, mass at the hospital. Only two people could be allowed into the NICU, my wife and I. Um, no family, no parents. They, excuse me, they weren't able to see him until we actually took him home. So we were honestly just in a constant state of stress. And then Michaela, I mean, it took her weeks to even remotely recover from the C-section itself. She, couldn't walk probably for the first week, I think. After that, she could walk, but very labored, very slowly. Um, it was difficult. She was in pain often. She still feels pain in the C-section scar area. I was just stressed out. I was stressed out about the baby, if he was going to be okay. I was stressed out about Michaela, if she was going to be okay. I was stressed out about my new job. My arm was still hurt. I mean, it had been sewn up, but the first month we were in there, I still had, stitches in my arm. Well, probably the first couple weeks. The first month, though, it was, limited mobility, limited use. It hurt. It was sensitive to the touch. Um, it was just a difficult time. And then, yeah, like I said, COVID was a thing. whatever your feelings on COVID are, it didn't help the situation. It just added more stress. And the last year, I mean, I've always been the kind to keep up with, politics and what's going on in our world. So I'm pretty regularly looking at, the news, watching videos, reading literature to kind of add relevancy to what it is we're experiencing. And it kind of made me paranoid, to be honest. And to this day, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but um, there's this lingering feeling, and Michaela has it too, if you were to ask her, of just kind of paranoia of, okay, what's going to happen next? What's the next bad thing that's going to happen? You know, I'm just waiting for it. So, and the news, they don't help that. They add to it. They make it worse. Anyways, I digress. We did get out of there. Jacob came home with us. He was very little. He was, well, on birth he was 3.4 pounds, I think, or 3 pounds 4.7 ounces. Yeah. Well, when we left, I want to say he was somewhere between 7 and 8 pounds. Um, he was large and mature for a NICU baby, or premature. Baby's his age, but he was still very small and immature for babies that were, you know, around what he should have been. He caught up fast. Over the course of the first few months, he, got big really quickly, put on a lot of weight, good eater, very healthy, and, our last few doctor visits with him, he's caught up. He is on track for a baby that is his age. So, he's what, 6 months now, just about 6 months, uh, 4 months from his original due date, and he's just pretty much caught up with other 6-month old babies that were born on their due dates, essentially. So that's awesome. We're so happy, and he's doing great. He smiles. He's rolling over. He's kind of scooting around a little bit, spins in circles. He laughs a lot. Man, he is a happy. He can be a big whiner. Let me tell you, he likes to cry if you're not paying attention to him. He needs 24/7 attention, and that's one difficulty. During the week, I sleep at nights for the most part because of work, but Michaela will take care of him during the nights, and then I help where I can on the weekends and during the days when I'm not working, and just whenever I can. Um, and she's had some struggle there. A lot of sleepless nights, just tired and stressed. It's been hard on her. It's been hard on both of us, but we're very happy to have him, and he's getting big and growing up, and things are a lot better. So we're just so happy and thankful for that, and glad things are turning out better than they were. Um, with that, I think I'm going to end this segment. I just wanted to give a short update about everything, and kind of give a broad overview of what's gone on the last few months, and hopefully I can start making these videos more consistently. Plans for the future. I actually do want to. I know originally I said I did not want to get into politics, but I think I'm going to actually start getting into that a little bit, because there are things that I feel need to be said about current affairs, current state of affairs, that I just don't see being said. Um, is that narcissistic of me to think that I have something to say that's unique or better than other people? Probably, and I've thought of that, but I do think I have a unique view of the way things happen in this world, and I don't see a whole lot of people talking about them in the way that I view them. And I think other people, if they heard it, may think it's reasonable and may even agree with me. Um, Other than that, another thing I'd like to get into more is, I mean, I like video games, so I'll probably put up some more videos of just me playing stuff and commenting on it. So that'll be more lighthearted. I'm not going to be serious during those. Just kind of have fun with it. All right, with that said, everyone have a nice